Hey. Welcome, everybody, to another Water Fed Wednesday. This is episode 30, entitled Stay Grounded, uh, Water Fed Pole Safety with Michael Draper. So, yes, welcome back. As you can tell, the music was a little shorter this time because we got a jam-packed episode here with Mike, and we're really looking forward to it. So I wanted to make sure we allow enough time for this. So if this is your first time to Waterfed Wednesday, welcome. This is where we go beyond the bucket to help cleaners worldwide to get the job done faster, safer, and better. Of course, I'm your host, Alex Brunner, and today we are honored to have you, Michael Draper, Safety Director with Expert Safety Services and educator with the IWCA and PWNA. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Right on. Before we get started, just have a couple reminders. Check out our website, tuckerusa.com, where we have our 10% off sale that's store-wide going on right now. And if you're a Team Tucker member, you get to save even more. And this is also being extended to our B2B dealers, our dealer network throughout the United States. So if you want to purchase our products and have a favorite dealer, check them out. Also, a reminder, we'll be at the huge convention next week. We'll be at booth number 631, where we will be unveiling something huge. So if you're going to be there, come by and check us out. If this is the first time joining us and you missed all the episodes, the best way to check them out is head over to our YouTube channel. That's Tucker USA. All right, Mike. Again, thank you for taking some time out of your day. We'll really want to pay attention because there's a lot of great information that we're going to go over. So you have over 30 years experience with window cleaning, right? Residential, commercial, high rise.
Yeah, no, that's right. I get older every year, and some of that data out there about me is I wrote it years ago, and I forget that I wrote it years ago. So, yeah, I started in the window cleaning industry when I was 16 years old. I'm 52 years old, so that kind of gives you the time frame.
Right on. And also you're involved with pressure washing safety. Obviously, right now, as a water fed pole company equipment, we'll be focusing on the water fed, but you have you offer courses over wide variety, right? Residential, commercial, high rise, also with pressure washing, correct?
Yeah, so I personally kind of stick to at height work. I mean,
Okay.
that's kind of where I play, whether that be rope access, suspended scaffolding, mobile area work platforms, confined space. Those are kind of my areas that I play in directly. But yeah, I'm a consultant, a paid consultant for the PWNA and also the IWCA, where we try to look and make sure that the trainings that they're putting on reflects the things that it would need to under the authorities having jurisdiction. So that could be OSHA, it could be the EPA for the PWNA, it could be DOT, it could be NFPA with kitchen exhaust cleaning. So basically compliantary type stuff. I make sure that things are where they're supposed to be from a compliantary standpoint.
Awesome. So appreciate you sharing the background and clarification. As mentioned, you've been in the industry for more than 2 decades. So how did you start off with window cleaning? So how did you get involved in going down the safety training path?
Yeah, the safety was kind of, I mean, we'd always been involved in safety because I'd been for years going to the IWCA, and safety was at the forefront of our business. We cared deeply about it. We made sure that we were as safe as we possibly could be. And, in 2014, I sold my exterior building company or washing company. And, we just kind of gravitated towards safety. And there wasn't a vast, I wouldn't say it was the only one, but there wasn't a vast, amount of instructors out there that were doing what we wanted to do. And then, of course, in 2017, the general industry standard was revamped by OSHA. And, it just kind of played right into what we were trying to accomplish and do. And so it it just kind of, if anything, it was really, timing was really, really good for when we got into the business. There's no doubt about that. So, but that's what just gravitated us toward it. And then we just kept getting involved, And here we are today.
Okay. I'm going to switch these. We're in segment 2 here. So I'm going to switch these around. We talked about IWCA and PWNA. You had been involved with the IWCA, it sounds like, when you had your business. So how did your partnerships come about?
Yeah, with the IWCA, I mean, I had been a member of the IWCA for years and years, like I said. And so it just here recently, with the retirement of Stephen Bright, who had been their safety director for years, there was a need. There was need to continue things going on, and so they asked me to come on and be retained as the safety consultant with them. PWNA was something similar. I mean, I attended their conventions, and I was looking at their trainings, and there was just, to me, there was a gap in training. There was a gap in what was being trained versus the compliance piece. And, I'm kind of a firm believer in, you can't be a professional in your field unless you can truly understand and identify the safety hazards that exist in the trade that you're in. And so they agreed, and they wanted to start negotiations. And so we came on as their compliance and safety director as well. So both of them just basically being around them and them kind of understanding what I was doing and what I was trying to do just led to relationships being built with both of them.
Awesome. Of course, didn't put this on the topic. I really am looking forward to February, because we're going to have that joint show. So it's really going to be something I think, though, both industries are going to be looking forward to.
Yeah, I think the industry's craving it. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't talk to one window cleaner that's not a pressure washer, and I talk to very few pressure washers that don't do something else. I mean, it may be window cleaning, it may be solar, it just seems like everything is blending very much. It's truly an exterior, or not even exterior, but just a building contractor world. They're doing all the services, and so
Right.
to come under one roof, see it all in a trade show, have all the classes that you'd ever want there. I think the industry wants it. I think they want it bad.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where, obviously the safety component is there, but there's also the business side where they're telling them, hey, increase your ticket pricing, your ticket amounts by adding these services. Well, you can add that, but now you also got to be, especially if you have a company, you have employees, you need to be concerned about the safety aspect of it as well. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that both these are joining forces. For
Yeah,
sure.
safety and just, we say safety, but when you start pressure washing, you have chemical hauling and big water tanks and things like that. There's just other things that come into play too. DOT is there, so it's really compliance. EPA comes in some states. I mean, they enforce it very, very heavily so far as the Water Reclamation Act. And so, yeah, I mean, I just think having all of it together is just going to be really cool. I've wanted it for years, so I'm happy to see it finally coming together.
Yeah. And I think sometimes part of it, yeah, you're talking about DOT stuff. I just had somebody here locally walk in, and they're trying to do their own little DIY setup, water fed. The trad, now they're doing water fed. Now they want to do a tank, and they want to got their tank. And I'm like, well, what are you gonna do about strapping this thing down? What are you talking about? Well, you got 65 gallons of water in here. Now you got to worry about when you come to a stop or when you take it off.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't know about that.
Exactly.
So in the water fed side of things, we're seeing a lot of focus, obviously, from the IWCA show last February. We're seeing a big focus on water fed pole safety. What has got you on that kick right now?
Death. When and I've been, like I said, involved with the IWCA for years, and the big thing every year was to always go and not go and try to figure it out, but just, it was, you was hearing what were the statistics from falls, and specifically with RDS and rope access, right? What what was the statistics? And IWCA was originally formed to bring that number down. They were losing too many people per year in that industry, and the IWCA formed for many reasons, but one of them was to, make sure that they could, from a safety standpoint, try to look at that, address concerns on a national level, and then, address those issues and hopefully bring that stat down. So it's interesting that when it all first started, that number was somewhere, around 7 or 8 deaths a year. It came down, and then it came down tremendously over the years with education and things like that. But the water-fed, I think the thing that sparked it the most is the fact that those death rates that we're pretty proud of bringing down in the rope world. They were on the increase with water-fed, and not just 1 year, but year after year, year over year. And so it just started to be a concern. It's like, hey, wait a minute, what are we missing here? What's going on here? And we need to relook at this and really make sure that that rate, because at the end of the day, I mean, it's tragic for anybody to have loss of life in their company. That's one thing, and that's the most important thing. But also, just as an industry, I mean, when you have these deaths that get recorded like that, it affects everyone's insurance. The insurance agencies, they look at these things, and so they're going to make determinations based on those types of accidents. And so that's why it's come about. There's been too many injuries and deaths with water-fed poles.
Yeah, plain and simple. And I'll probably go into it a little bit, but I think the main reason we're seeing a quick adoption to water-fed. It's becoming more and more common to use it. Before it was, just with the window cleaners, and they're the traditional guys would say, "Oh, water-fed is, it's not going to get the job done." But now we're seeing people starting off into water-fed, especially with the pressure washers adopting it more, right? They hear about how fast it can be, so they don't even worry concerned about trad tools, so they're all just jumping into it. And there are aspects that it can be safer than hauling around ladders, but if you're not knowing certain aspects about it, I think that's where we're seeing that and not educating themselves on it, for sure.
No, I agree. I mean, a question just popped up in the chat here. Carbon fiber poles are conductive? Question mark. 1,000%
Yeah.
conductive. 1,000%. Yeah. So anybody that doesn't know that, yes, they are conductive. They will conduct. They will arc, and they've killed people.
Yeah. Well, let's go into that topic. Some top safety hazards with water-fed poles. So, when you think about the most dangerous situations with water-fed poles, what hazards rise to the top? What are those things?
Well, it's undoubtedly it's electrical hazards, right? I
Mm.
mean, that's where it's at. And the problem is, and there was some interesting debates over the weekend about this too. Is that like, well, you shouldn't even be working around it. And and I completely agree that we follow hierarchy of controls when we're putting safety plans together, and when we have that risk, then the safest way is to eliminate the risk. We shouldn't be working around it. The problem is that many guys will, they may even recognize the hazard. They may say, okay, well, I'm staying, my work zone is 10 feet away from it. But maybe in the movement or the transporting of the pole or something like that, they get back into an area where it can conduct or arc. So it's just, I mean, we've got to create more awareness and more training around the fact that water-fed poles will conduct electricity. They are conducting electricity, and we as contractors have to be very astute at identifying electrical hazards on the job site.
Absolutely. So why do you think that these electrical hazards have been so easy to overlook for the cleaning industry? So, and again, how common is it?
Yeah, well, it's common. I mean, you have a lot of areas, in downtown areas specifically that you have high lines that are there, and why we see the statistic going in the north direction on the accident rates it's interesting. I mean, I think it's because, as you stated, more and more people are using water-fed poles, and there probably is a lack of awareness and training. I mean, we do the best we can, and we preach it and beat the drum all the time, but nonetheless, more needs to be done. We had somebody on your thing right here didn't know that water-fed poles were conductive, and so that messaging needs to go out there and go out there a lot harder. And yeah, I just think we have to create more of awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. What roles does equipment choice, like non-conductive or fiberglass poles, play in reducing it?
Well, it's a good start. I think the the issue is that the progressive path. If I was a tool manufacturer of any sort, the progressive path for me getting to a compliantary piece of equipment or tool that's under the OSHA standards of, under classes and all of this stuff to have, these electrical ratings, I would have to do initial testing, and I would have to try to figure out, that the UL testing and things like that, that's expensive. So you would do preliminary testing first to make sure that your product is going to match up to what you're trying to ultimately resolve. I think the problem right now is we've had manufacturers do their preliminary testing and then release it as an insulated tool. And that I think we can't do. We can't shortcut the process, right? OSHA lays it out very, very clearly as to what the process has to look like. And so preliminary, great. That's what everybody would have to do. But now we need to go to the next level. I do think that, that there is an argument to be made that, what we don't need. We don't need people working around the lines, and insulated tools is going to make, a person think that they can do, they can get in there and work around lines. And that's fair. That's a fair argument. And the thing that I think why we have to go down this is that as I look at some of the accidents that have happened, like I take the Joshua Knight accident over in the UK. He knew there was electrical hazards there. He had done that house several times. He was working way outside of what he thought was the electrical voltage and the minimum approach distances for that voltage. What he didn't know was that there was a major voltage running through those lines, and it wasn't supposed to be, but it was. It was grandfathered in, and it was. So in that case, having the extra step or the extra precaution of an insulated tool would have probably prevented the accident that Jason went under. And so, since we know we can't just avoid it, and I get it that elimination would be the key, and it is, and that's always the case with safety, but we can't ignore these accident statistics. And so in not doing so, I think that I think we need to follow the OSHA guidelines that when we're working around, not inside the minimum approach distance, but when we're working, if there's electrical lines present, period, then we work with insulated tools. And I think we work with the insulated gloves and insulated footwear as well. I mean, our JHAs that we're creating now, it basically states that if are electrical hazards present, yes, okay, if they are, then immediately default to insulated tools, and then set up your minimum approach distance. All right, because it just happens. It happens that guys they either come outside of their minimum approach distance when they're moving the pole, or they don't understand the arcing effect or the voltage that's running through the lines.
Yeah.
And all the geniuses on Facebook, you see all these stupid comments sometimes of people that obviously don't have a clue what they're talking about. And so you just get a lot of misinformation out there.
Yeah, absolutely agree. There's a lot of misinformation, or you'll see somebody that is properly equipped and they mock it. You're like, you look like a fool. Well, I'd rather look like a fool than some of the images I've seen of what happens after the fact, for sure.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Some some of our newer customers and people in the industry weren't aware of this, but back in May 6, 2019, you and Sean got together and announced our ISOTech technology, which was the fiberglass base section. Um, so we know that we weren't the first ones to come up with this claim, but to have this non-conductive section. But I believe it was the first time there was a third party testing, if I'm correct. Now, this isn't the totally in depth, but this is a preliminary one. Do you recall the voltage that was tested and maybe how the conditions of that test?
Yeah, I don't think Tucker was the first to test either. I
Okay.
think I honestly think Ionic in the UK was the first one to put it on their pole with the testing, and they were testing to some standard, European standard or whatever. And so, yeah, Sean hired us as a consulting agency to try to figure out the testing, figure out what we could do preliminary to see, were the claims that material just based on materials alone was a fiberglass section going to provide adequate protection, at least, from a initial standpoint. And so the testing was provided by ATS in Georgia, and they tested that pole. So the specifications of that test were for 100 kilovolts for 1 minute, and it was to meet the ASTM D149-09 standard 2013. The test material that was provided was a pole. That pole was extended. It was a 30-foot eco solar carbon fiber pole with the ISO base, and the remarks, it did pass. The electrodes were placed end to end on the pole, and there was no arcing or breakdown observed at that voltage. And it's always interesting because sometimes critics to this testing or whatever say, well, you've got water involved that is not being figured into it. And that is very true. There is water involved in this. However, this particular test, we wanted to account for that. And the testing performed on that one through ATS. Again, this was back in 2019. So we've been concerned about this for a while now.
Yeah.
That test was performed with water running through the pole. And so now we're not saying that water outside the pole couldn't conduct electricity or whatever, but water running inside the pole had no bearing on the testing. Now, that's fine. And I even with this testing, it was meant and designed as a preliminary test. What was being said out there, hey, if you had a fiberglass-based section, it wouldn't conduct electricity. You would have a safe place for your hands. Preliminary results showed yes. So, but now this would have to go to a UL testing type lab, right, to get that verification and that status for insulated tools under the OSHA requirements.
Okay.
So it was a good starting place, right? Great starting place. Right. Very high voltage, and it sustained it for 1 minute. So it does kind of tend to lean you to the fact, well, yes, fiberglass would stop that voltage from entering into a body, and so yeah, I mean, more investigative things would have to go into that. But the initial test said was pretty positive.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we're talking about this a little bit off air. One of the reasons why people might not be aware that we have that is because we kind of backed off of it because it started making people say, okay, well, now I can go work with those power lines nearby. And I remember these conversations early on because I've been on board since 2021, and I was like, absolutely not. That's not what we're making any claims to do that. You still want to follow the guidelines, best practices. This is just there as just in case, because it is just the base section. Everything else is carbon fiber. And what is the natural inclination when a pole falls over? You want to grab up, right?
Yeah.
So what happens when that you take your hand off of that? You have one hand on there, but you have your other hand on the carbon fiber section. What happens there?
Power line. You'd be electrocuted. And so, and that's the reason too. I mean, I know that the manufacturers are hesitant on this because it's not a license to be stupid. It's basically an isolated event, right? So you put all the parameters in place, you establish your minimum approach distances, but if by chance, something like in the Joshua Knight case, if by chance somebody made a mistake or something, it gives an extra measure of protection. And that's why we're advocating also the gloves, because if by chance you do have, where and there's been several deaths, this isn't theory, where the person did grab the second section, the pole goes over, they grab the second section, and now they're being electrocuted. And so again, having the gloves and the footwear in place is just, it's precautionary. It's not a license to go out and grab the lines or work around those lines. It's just that if an accident happens, it gives an extra measure of protection.
Yeah, I think even with our own poll after this, there was an incident. I don't want to go into specifics and call out anybody, but they were using it for, I think, Christmas tree lights.
Yep.
And I think that's what happened. They just natural instinct, and from what I hear, this company gave training, but you just natural inclination, and it was an unfortunate ending.
Yep. And it's never going to, you're never going to cover all of it, because you could say, well, the first and second section must be, well, the thing is that the user has the opportunity to extend whatever sections they want.
Yeah.
And so you're never going to eliminate that hazard all the way. But it's just that if my hands were on that section and it arced accidentally, then it would provide a measure of protection, but it's not 100%. And that's why we always are going to say minimum approach distances, stay away from the lines, know your voltage coming in, and set up your distances and eliminate the hazard altogether if you can.
Absolutely. I think there was a question about gloves, and sorry guys, like I said, we have a lot of information we want to go through, so I might not be able to get to them, but I'm not sure if I've ever heard of microfoam gloves. And we might be going through this later on, but I just want to acknowledge
here's the thing I'll just make a blanket statement.
Sure.
Whether it be shoes or gloves or hard hats or whatever, we are looking for the right rating for what we're doing. All right. And so I don't know about microfoam gloves. But do they carry a class 1 or 0, 1, 2, 3 rating on them that rates them to the voltage that you would be around? If they do, you're fine. If they don't, they won't. I wouldn't take chances. You need that class rating on those types of things.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about best practices, for setup and operations. Can you walk us through what you would the recommended process for assessing a job site before starting work?
Yeah, I mean, specifically with water-fed poles, if that's our intention, is to use water-fed poles, and we get onto a site, we should be evaluating overhead hazards. And in some places you won't deal with this. All your electricity comes in underground. It's no big deal. Other places, not so much. There's electrical lines that come in off of drop lines and come into the house via overhead lines. And so those lines pose a danger on the job site. And again, our JHAs now we're defaulting to the safest. So if electrical hazards are present, regardless if I can stay away from them or not, we're wanting an insulated base section tool. We're wanting the appropriate class level gloves on an individual, and then electrical hazard rated shoes. All right, so that's just standard protocol. Then once we have that in there, that's our PPE. And if you ever watch hierarchy of controls, PPE is at the bottom, right? It's the very bottom. And so, but we still want to then set up minimum approach distances. So I try to identify the voltage coming in, and then, okay, is it 10 feet? All right, if it's 10 feet away, then all work has to be done, inside of that 10-foot mark. You have to be away from that. And then establishing the drop zone altogether. And so these drop zones, on a 30-foot pole, we always say it's the extended length of the pole. So let's just say you're out 30 feet plus a third of the pole. So that's 10 feet, and then another 10 feet for the electrical hazard. So minimum approach distance, if 10 feet is the variable, because you get into some voltages, it could be 15 feet, 20 feet, 25 feet. So whatever that voltage is. So 30 feet extended length plus 10 at a minimum approach distance, that's going to be a 50-foot drop zone in all areas. And can we work in that? If we can't, then we shouldn't do the job. We just shouldn't do the job,
Yeah.
regardless if you have an insulated base section or the other. Again, those things are for accidental type things that may occur, but we still have to be responsible and not try not to put ourselves in those situations to begin with.
Absolutely. I'm now noticing the time. It is already 4 o'clock Mountain. I think 5 your time, and I want to be mindful you have a hard stop. So I'm going to just kind of go through these. And let's see. Something important here. We've gone through gear. Uh, one thing I want to ask about that. Who, when you're dealing with um, owner operators, and a lot of times they'll say they don't have to worry about it, but who does that responsibility fall on when you're dealing with employees? Like, is it the employee or
No,
the
it's the
employer?
employer. And so, yeah, when you have an employee-employer relationship, then the employer has to provide those things. And if they don't, then, they could be found liable and negligent even for that worker's death. Owner operators, yeah, I hear this all the time. Well, I'm not under OSHA. I don't have to do that. We're not talking about OSHA here, guys. We're talking about electricity.
Yeah,
Electricity works it doesn't matter if you're owner operator or the worker. It doesn't matter. It works.
yeah,
And so it will juice you just the same.
yeah,
And honestly, an owner operator sometimes should be thinking, in higher levels of safety, because the impact that an accident has on their business is major. There's owners of companies that have multiple guys out there, and not that they would want this or whatever. I'm just using this example, but if one guy got electrocuted and got hurt, it probably won't impact their business all that much. I mean, so far as what they can get done. But an owner operator, if they get electrocuted, think about that, what that impacts your family. It impacts your ability to provide a living. Even if you're just injured, I mean, it's major. To listen to the story of Joshua Knight, and it wasn't even Josh's deal, but to hear the emotional impact it had on his dad,
hmm
it was tremendous. And so, and they were owner operators. They didn't have employees. So yeah, electricity works. Gravity works too. I always tell that in fall protection class. Yeah, gravity
yeah,
don't care if you're an owner operator. It's going to work. Electricity's going to
yeah,
work too. Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. That gravity. We're really focused on the electricity aspect, but you're talking about the drop zones and things happen. I think. Well, I also want to caution people because I think somebody just reported this recently. They leave the pole on the side of the building, maybe go grab something. Here comes the wind, or even while they're handling it. Um, and something happens, the pole break and it falls over. And I think what happened was it broke a window. Um, don't leave your pole unattended. Be mindful of the conditions you're working in. Yeah, obviously we're talking about electricity here, but think of all aspects of it. That part of your analysis, right?
Yeah.
Make sure you're operating safely.
Absolutely. And it's generally in the movement around the building. That's the thing that really has to be considered in the JHA too, is how are we moving?
Mm,
If you have a commercial building, there's a bump out on it. That was a death in Texas. They had high lines. They were working inside of the minimum approach distance, but there was a bump out on the building. The guy raises his pole out like this in order to move around the bump. And when he moved his pole like this, now he come into, it didn't contact them, but it arced, right?
oh well.
But so again, think about how we're moving. That could have been avoided simply by lowering the pole to
Mm,
move it, you know? And so, yeah, there's just things we have to think about on the job sites.
absolutely. Uh, Moving on to the outro here. Uh, where where can we, or anybody who's not familiar with you and your services, where can we find you online if we have employees and we want to be concerned about their safety? How can we reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm at, expertsafetyservices.com is our website. We also have a safety software that we run, like we build JHAs and things for companies. And You're able to get the training and get the JHAs, and that's expertsafetyadvocate.com. And yeah, there's a lot of good waterfed training in there. Also, just things that you can do to basically be aware of not only this hazard but a lot of hazards. So those are the two primary ways: Expert Safety Services or Expert Safety Advocate. We have another company as well, Expert Summit Anchors, but those are the two that probably your audience here would care most about.
Okay. What are your plans for the huge convention?
Yeah, so I have some other business down there early in the week in Nashville, so I'm headed down there Monday. On Wednesday, I'm going to be teaching all day. The IWCA has put on a free safety seminar. We're going to be doing our OSHA 1910 class for window cleaners and power washers. We're going to get into solar safety, some drone safety, some water-fed safety as well. And so it's an all-day event. It's free, by the way. It's somebody's paid for it. I think Tucker is a nice sponsor of that. So it's not free to everybody, but it's free to attendees. And lunch is provided. They're going to have a nice happy hour. So it's a nice time to get together. We've got a nice audience coming to that, really wide cross section of people. I got to see the attendee list here, and the IWCA provided, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be good. And I think whenever you get all those people in a room together and you get to share stories and share the war stories and things like that, I think that everybody comes away with maybe a different outlook, or maybe they go back and approach things just slightly different. Yeah, and that's the big thing, big takeaway from it. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you out there. Do you have any final words for our Waterfed viewers today, Waterfed Wednesday?
Yeah, I just think, overall, I mean, the tragedy that I feel like has happened in our industry with waterfed is, I remember when waterfed was in its initial pushes, and everyone wasn't into waterfed. Actually, most people weren't, and there was this big push, and I remember the push was safety. It was that hey, you're going to eliminate fall hazards by keeping your feet on the ground and using a water-fed pole. So, the tragedy, I guess, that happened is that as an industry, we didn't educate on electrical hazards. So, I get tapped all the time to support GoFundMe's after an accident.
Oh, yeah.
And, I guess there's a little funny meme that I love. It says that the safety budget before an accident, and it shows like 1 penny in there. And then after an accident, that thing's full, right?
Yeah.
Let's reverse that. Let's give and it doesn't have to be necessarily money, but just the mindset. Let's put all the mindset in the jar before the accident occurs, so that we don't have to fund GoFundMe's. I don't want to fund one more GoFundMe. I hate it every time that it comes around in our industry, because I know the impact that it has on the family. I know the impact that it has on our industry. And so if we can avoid it, if we can do anything to, keep it from happening, let's just give that the diligence. Let's be safe out there.
Absolutely. Well, once again, thank you for joining us this week. I know, like you said, you have a hard stop, so we'll go ahead and let you go. And thank you all for joining us. Really, if you're just now joining us, we went over water-fed safety, specifically in the area of dealing with electricity. You can catch up on this episode over our YouTube channel. So please watch it in its entirety. And if you have an opportunity to be at the Huge, definitely stop by. I'm sure you'll have a booth out there, right, Mike?
No, we don't have a booth this year,
Not
actually.
This year? Okay.
Yeah, we're just coming in really for the safety seminar. I'll probably walk the trade show floor on Thursday, but yeah, we're just coming in for that mainly.
Okay, well, take advantage of that free day of training. Absolutely do that, please, for your own sake and your employees' sake. Please do that. So thank you, Mike. We'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for having me. We'll look forward to seeing you in Nashville.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
You bet.